Hi, Bhanu. Thanks a lot for taking time out of your busy schedule for this call. I really appreciate it. And in this call, essentially, we're going to go through your FE and your PE journey. You basically you started off with FE electrical with me, and then you continued on with the PE power and with the attempts that you had with me. Both of those attempts were your first attempts with me, and then you passed both exams in the first attempts, which is really amazing. So I would like you to sort of walk me through essentially what motivated you to get on this journey of the licensing in the first place, and give us a little bit of background about how it's helping you.
Thanks for having me. And because I work as a transportation engineer in Caltrans, uh, I was recently, last year in around September, I was promoted to be the lead. Now I'm working as a lead, but I cannot sign and stamp plans for people whose plans I'm reviewing and all of that.
Right.
And technically, all that credit was not mine. So I felt like, okay, no, this is something, if I'm doing it, I should get the credit for doing all the work that I'm doing. And
Right.
on top of
And the
that,
responsibility as well. It's not just the credit.
exactly.
There's a
Yes,
responsibility element too. Yeah.
true. And then it was like, it's always like, obviously, it's always all the responsibility comes through with when you have all of that. And then, of course, you cannot move forward in Caltrans setup if you do not have PE. And I think I was working way too hard and not getting enough in return too, in every sense. Like, and personally too, I felt like that, I was thinking about it since I joined Caltrans, and everybody, all my peers were telling me, you should do it, you should do it. And I was like, yeah, I will. But
Right.
then I was like, okay, that's it. Now this is high time that I should just get over with this. Otherwise, it's just going to be, it'll just keep being stuck over there. And I'm like thinking
Right.
about it.
And just to interject, in my personal opinion and observation, uh, if you are working as a design engineer in whatever capacity, whether it is at a consultancy, whether it is at a manufacturing, oil and gas, utilities, or in your case, transportation, if you are working right now as a design engineer, or if you want to continue pursuing this trajectory, career trajectory, it is important to get the PE out of your way as soon as
That
possible.
is so true. That is so true.
If you
Because
branch out into management, that's a different story, right? But if you want to
yeah,
stay as a technical engineer, then it's a good idea.
yeah, but I mean, the way the structure is, you cannot even branch out to be in the management if
Right.
you, in our culture, if you don't have PE.
You have
So
to pay your dues
that's like,
first.
exactly. I
Yeah.
guess so.
Yeah, because then you're going to start managing individuals who have their PEs, and then it gets an issue with like credibility and even like getting the respect or
Exactly.
recognition. So,
Yeah,
okay. So you realized that it was required for you to progress in your career, and then you dived into it. When did you start
absolutely.
preparing for the FE exam?
So I gave my first exam for FE uh, December. So I started like October, somewhere in October.
October of 2019, 2020,
Yeah,
2019?
2020, 2020.
Oh, 2020. Okay, that was your first attempt. And obviously you fell short. And then the second attempt was when?
No, oh, okay. No, my first attempt was in somewhere in 2018, actually. Then I was like, okay.
Okay,
And back then it was like a completely different scenario. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna just take a pause. I have a lot of work to do.
right.
And back then I had barely started with Caltrans, so it was like too much for me to grasp.
Sure.
Like I was learning at work too, and all of that. But then last year, then I started in 2020, October. Then I was like, okay, that's it. I have to get over with this. And that's when I started with your course.
Okay. So, yeah, if you could just give a high level overview of how the course helped. And you also used the study guide and practice exams, or just the study guide and the
Yes,
course?
I used the study guide and practice exams and the course. What I felt personally for me was really good because you know how being an international student in California, it's completely different. Standards are very, very different compared to what we have here in the United States. So it gave me both in-depth ideas about what do we have here and how can I relate it with whatever I have already studied, and
Okay.
kind of giving me like when I did my engineering was mostly in electrical and electronics,
Hmm.
had no clue about signals. And
Yes.
then
Yeah.
so in FE, it plays a huge part. There are a lot of questions about convolution, about signals and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
we cannot discuss exam specific questions, but yeah, signals, communication, even
Yeah,
linear systems, all of them,
exactly.
heavy math and very focused on,
Yeah,
and you can probably throw in controls in there as well because they sort of
exactly.
all are in the
Yeah,
same topics, very similar topics.
yeah,
I think you're muted.
things.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
So I was not aware about such questions because I
So
wasn't
you
expecting.
hadn't even studied them in your undergraduate.
No,
Okay, all right.
I was mostly electrical, like power generation, transmission, distribution. That was my main area,
Okay.
and a few subjects of electronics, like talking about transistors, BGTs, and stuff like that.
Right.
That
So most
was
of the
my,
most of the ABET accredited universities, the electrical engineering curriculum is very similar. And I mean, I haven't gone through every single curriculum, but most of the students that I have and my personal training as well, in the undergraduate level, there's at least one linear systems course, at least one signal processing, two electronics, one controls. So you were lacking that, so you had to overcome that
yeah.
as well. So that was a significant challenge, and with a
Oh yes.
full-time job.
Oh yeah.
Right.
With a full-time job. Yes. But yeah, so that's where it was really helpful for me to do all of those. I knew the basics because of course I did my master's here, so I knew the basics. So I knew otherwise I wouldn't have been able to finish that. So I
Okay.
had to go in depth knowledge of all of those because in the exam I can't just go with the basic and try to
No,
do it.
no.
There's
Yeah.
no possibility for that.
Right. You have to
So
be able to comprehend the question, understand the theory behind it, and then, be able to solve the problems ultimately.
exactly.
So how
So
did the course help you in overcoming that
that's
the
where
electrical
I like,
course?
yeah, that's where like I learned a lot about the basics, more than the basics, and in-depth knowledge of all of these signals and communications,
So it was
which I
essentially a
have.
crash course. It was essentially
Yeah,
a crash course
exactly.
in all of these areas. Okay.
Yeah, that is true.
And what about the study guide? Which edition you use, second or third? I think you ended up using both, didn't you?
I think I
The
had
golden one or the black or blue?
the black blue.
Okay, so that's the third edition. So you were using the latest edition. Okay,
Yes.
and how long it take you? How long did it take you to prepare, complete the course, complete the study guide, and take your third attempt? Second attempt, right?
Yeah, I was, I guess, too motivated.
Okay.
I pretty much did it very, very quickly. I knew this is going to take my time, but I still did put in like 15 to 20 hours of my time every week. And it then that's how I think I was able to finish it in like a month and a half or so, the
Okay.
course. And then I did the practice questions after I was done with the course. That took me like a week or so.
And how are you
But
feeling?
because I was putting all this
Right.
effort
Yeah,
in 20
consistently
hours.
15 to 20 hours, that's impressive, right? And it really, I mean, 15 hours, it depends from person to person. For some people, they can get 10 hours in, very focused, and that would
Yeah,
be like 20 hours for someone else. If you have YouTube and Netflix opened on another window, and then, that doesn't really count. It's the
that's true.
focused time that really counts, the focus effort.
Yeah.
And then you essentially pulled the trigger, and then you went in for the exam. And how were you feeling during the exam?
I was pretty actually confident that, I got this.
Okay,
I know what I'm doing. I know the answers, that whatever I'm saying is correct and all of that. And
that's
it
nice. That's a good feeling
with
to have.
yeah, exactly. When you know whatever you're doing is correct and that you have your
Right.
confidence, that's good. Yes.
Nice. So you passed the FE exam, and then I remember you told me that okay, you passed the exam and now you want to take the PE Power on. And as we
Yeah.
were discussing earlier, that's something that I highly recommend to students who are in a position, depending on the state board rules, if they can take the PE exam right away, they should, because it's better to get over with it ASAP. So when did you really start your PE Power exam preparation?
Actually, the very same day I got my FA results.
Wow.
Very same day.
That reminds me of myself. Although I really didn't start it with the very same day, I took a week break, but fairly close.
I know. I was like, okay, no, I just want to get over with this and I'm gonna start right away. I signed up for my test, I remember the same day, and I signed up for your course also the same day.
Right,
And I started looking over what do I need to do. And I knew like with Power exam, there were like it had sections of distribution and transmission,
right.
which I knew I was aware of those. So I was like, okay, I have to do this. I know I just have to refresh my memory, go through all the courses, and I should be done.
Yeah, I mean, PE Power exam, a lot of students actually find it a lot more challenging than FE exam. Depends on how you look at it.
Yeah,
It is more
depends on
difficult.
like I think the curriculum that every person has taken during their
Right,
college.
but the level of difficulty of the problems is definitely more intense as compared
That's
to the FE
true.
exam,
That's
right?
true.
There, on average on FE, okay, if you know the fundamentals and if you know the reference handbook well and you've covered the entire curriculum, you've done enough practice, I think you're in a reasonable shape, right? If you
That
have
is
a
true.
very sound theoretical and conceptual understanding, then you are almost guaranteed to pass, unless you basically lose your composure during the exam or if you mismanage your time. But in PE, everyone has to get that in-depth understanding because it really tests you on the depth. So,
That's true.
how did the course and how did the study guide for PE Power, my study guide that you use, helped you?
I mean, it's we always have all other resources too, but at the same time, I would say because it's like such great sync in between the two, the study guide and the course that you have. It's just makes you so it makes it easier for you to understand and go through each topic, which is
Right,
very important. And then you can go through, and the way your course defines certain things like how many questions from a certain section or stuff like that, which makes it so simple. And I think it's all about that, how much you can understand like your own strengths and weaknesses. Like I know what
yes,
my strengths are.
yes, exactly. Exactly. I have some students who haven't used NEC, who haven't used a lot of codes at all. And when I learn about it, I'm like, you need to put in extra time on that portion.
Yes,
There are some
that is
students who have
true.
no experience with protection, right? So they need to get into the nitty-gritty details. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
So that's where I think it helped me a lot. I knew what my strengths are. It took me a little time because when I started the course, I felt like, okay, I know this. But then when I started going in more deeper and deeper as we were going through, I was going through all those videos. That's where I felt, okay, this I know, but this is something that I have to put in more effort into.
right.
But I
That,
could make out like this is my strength and this is where I need to work.
yeah, funny you mentioned that because it reminds me when I was going through the P power specification, I'm like, okay. And that was when I took the exam a few years ago, right? I'm like, okay, you know what? I know everything I need to know probably about instrument transformers. But then you start going into the depth, right? What burden is, what the different accuracy classes are, what are the error ratings, and what is a metering CT, what is a revenue metering. Like, so when
That's
you
true.
start creating all of that framework, you realize, okay, just on a simple topic like instrument transformers, there is a lot to learn or a
That
lot
is
to
true.
know, right?
That is true. Yes,
So motors, like it's a pretty general concept topic, but when you start getting into the equivalent circuits for induction motor, synchronous motor, and then phasor diagrams and all of their equations, the power flow, there's a lot to remember. There's a lot to know. And I mean, by remembering, I don't mean that you should memorize it because it's a closed book exam. You took the closed book exam. The formulas are there. The equations are there. But you still need to have that mental framework in order to, tackle those problems.
exactly. It's important to understand the concept, and that's where I think those videos really helped. Of course, because I work in the field, so I know the concepts, but it's a good refresher, I would still say. And then certain things, because nobody is perfect and certain still things we still can
Of
miss
course.
out. So going through the course always makes it easier. And then I was like, I don't know, I think in general I'm very particular. I make notes,
No, that's
a
great.
lot of those.
Yeah, that saves you time in the long run. I actually recommend students to be very meticulous with note taking and keeping track of their own strengths and weaknesses, right?
That is
As an
true.
instructor, I don't know like what your strengths are. I have some students who use code on so frequent basis that that I can clearly tell that they know more about NEC than I know, right? And then there are other
Yeah,
students who have no knowledge of NEC because they haven't ever used it, or because they're internationally trained like yourself. They have been using other standards. So IEC standards, for instance, are very different from
that is
NEC.
true.
ANSI standards are very different. So they have a different way of basically creating and developing standards. They tackle different things differently. So everyone has their own strengths and differences. So what about the PE Power exam? What were your feelings like? Do you think that you were adequately prepared? You were over prepared, under prepared, walking out of the exam? What did you feel during the exam? Like,
Oh, when I was doing the first section, I was like, okay, I did it pretty fast actually.
that's pretty good.
I
Yeah,
was like surprised, and then for a second I self-doubted myself. Did I just really do it like so fast and I still got so much time?
yes.
I did those 42 questions in like 2 hours,
Wow.
and then
Yeah.
I
So
was
you were over
sitting.
prepared.
I guess so.
And what about the second half?
But then I didn't come out of the exam. Like I said, okay, even if I did it in like 2 hours, I need to double check my work,
Yeah.
and that's always a good idea. So I still took my time. I went through each question again. And when I started the second section, I felt like first few questions were difficult, and then I started to panic a little bit. Then I was like, okay,
Okay.
I'm gonna pass this on, do it in the end. And then
Yeah.
when I came, but I think that feeling comes because you have been sitting for so long
So you get
already,
tired as well. Yeah.
and you get tired,
Yeah.
and then you need your break to come. And then when you are on your break, you lose certain things which are there in your
Yeah.
mind.
Momentum sort of goes away a little bit.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
you should take the break, but at the same time, the break sort of interrupts as well. But
exactly.
but overall, you walked out of the exam knowing that you had it in the bag,
Yes,
essentially.
I was pretty confident that I got this. I'm done.
So, Bhanu, congratulations to you again, because it was all your effort, essentially. A lot of students give up quite easily after one failed attempt, sometimes two failed attempts. You basically kept going at it. You got the FE done in one attempt with my resources, PE done in one attempt in my resources. And as you mentioned in your email, it's already paying dividends in your career, right? Career growth within your
Absolutely.
company, promotions, more responsibilities, better projects, salary raises, and good things are, even better things are yet to come, right? Because
Absolutely.
it signals that you are focused on your career and you are in the driving seat now, essentially.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time and best of luck for your future career endeavors.
Thank you so much.